Well, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's start off at this point by introducing our guests tonight, and we're happy to have with us here Honorable Abdurazak Namdas. He's former chairman of the House of Representatives Committee, Army. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Right. Let me also welcome to this program Dr. Nasser Sani Gwarzo, MNI. He is the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Police Affairs. Thanks for being with us here.
Thank you, Cyril.
It's good to have you join us. A long time ago, you used to be,
reunion.
Yes, you used to be with us discussing matters of HIV and AIDS so many years ago. Tonight, it's about security.
About security,
Right.
certainly.
Thanks.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
We're also joined tonight by Assistant Commissioner of Police, Olumiwa Adejobi. He is the first PRO. Thanks for being here with us.
Good evening, Nigeria.
And let me also welcome to this program Dr. Kabir Adamu, who is a security expert. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure. Good evening, sir.
Right. Well, as you know, at some point in time, the program goes interactive. At that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. But for now, let's begin to look at the issues. And to start off, really, we should first assess the state of security and in the country. And, you know, these matters have become the most talked about in recent times. Despite all efforts to surmount the challenges and all that the government has thrown in, national security continues to be a matter of concern. But from the point of view of one who looks at matters such as this on a general note, Dr. Kabir Adamu, let's start with you. How do you assess what we are in at this point?
All right. Thank you very much, Cyril. I think it would be appropriate to start from the policy direction of the government, which were stated in the Renewed Hope agenda. Of course, ahead of the elections, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration released his Renewed Hope agenda. And in that agenda, 7 points were listed, from reorienting the military doctrine to reforming the police to dominating spaces to several other components were listed in that document. And of course, once the elections were won, the government listed a couple of priority areas, which included security. And then, of course, the government went ahead to appoint persons that it felt were of the right qualification, had the right capabilities to go ahead in implementing those priority areas that were listed within the Renewed Hope agenda. And so since then, we've seen, just like it was listed in the opening report, several aspects of, an attempt to meet the objectives of that Renewed Hope agenda. So I'll pick a couple and talk about them. So as an example, in the defense sector, especially in DICON, the government had an aspiration to increase our local production of ammunition and armament up to about 40% by 2027. So immediately after the inauguration of the government, we saw the president visiting countries like India, United Arab Emirates, and I think Turkey, where he signed agreements with different, both the government and private players, to the tune of almost about, I think, $3 billion US dollars. With the hope of investment within our defense industry to improve that local production. And so, again, work in progress. Now, with regards to the revampment of the military doctrine, we saw especially the persons that were appointed both at the ministerial level and then, of course, at the operational level, the service chiefs as an example. We saw them releasing in very clear terms their policy aspirations. And then the same thing across all the other agencies within the security sector, where each and every one of them developed policies, as it were, to key into this overall components as listed in the Renewed Hope agenda. So from then up until now, what we have seen in terms of metrics, as you probably know, I run a company where we gather incidents that occur, security-related incidents, and then we analyze that and we use it in producing metrics or numbers, as the case may be. So what we've seen since then up until now has been in some months you see an increase, and then in other months you see a decrease. So as an example, we're in May now. In April, the fatality figure for April was 1,087 persons died in that month. However, in the month of March, it was just slightly above 800. And then, of course, the previous month before that, also around 700. Now, if you compare it with the period, say last in 2023, the figures were also around the same thing. So in summary, in spite of the investment and these aspirations that the government has, unfortunately, in terms of fatality figures, which is really, in all honesty, the most visible expression of success or not in security, it is still unfortunately high. Now, the second order metrics that also speaks to whether we've made progress or not is abduction rate. The same thing, we've seen instances where in some months we would record very high figures, and then in some months we record low figures. So as an example, in April, we saw a decrease of almost about 68% in terms of the abduction rate, from around 600 to around 300 in the month of April. So again, like I said, in some months you see increase, you see decreases. One thing that unfortunately has remained constant, which I'm hoping in the course of our conversation we'll talk about, is the issue of synergy, cooperation, collaboration, and coordination. And then the second issue is that of accountability within the security sector. Incidentally, today, actually I'm just coming from a conference where we spoke on the issue of security sector governance and security sector reform. So those are components that we are yet to see being implemented in the administration as of now.
Well, thank you so much for giving us all this background with figures to back them up. And let me come to Honorable Abdulrazak Namdas. You chaired the House of Representatives Committee on Army at some point in time. And as we know, these challenges, the security challenges, did not start yesterday. They've been on now for close to a decade. And at your time, you also would have seen the trajectory and try to enunciate, laws and, articulate, steps which the government should take. Tell us about that and what you see then and what's happening now.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Mr. Cyril. Let me start by saying that between 2009 to date, the report shows that, particularly in the Northeast, let me give a picture of where I come from, that we have lost close to people, about 2.2 million people have been displaced. Reports indicate that. And even the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria came up with a figure that about 150 schools have also been closed, and over 2,000 teachers actually been fatalities, killed in the process. So this is the situation. However, I will marry my statement with the last speaker, which talks about synergy. I must say that having served as Chairman House Committee on Army in the last 4 years, I've been taking keen interest in the activities of armed forces and even other security agencies. I must admit that Mr. President did a good job, first by picking the right people to do the right job. I will say that, let me give an example of the Chief of Army Staff of today, Lieutenant General Tawfiq Lagbaja. Every Chief of Army Staff, when he comes on board, he gives his own philosophy, command, or mission statement. And his mission statement is that he is ready to transform the Nigerian Armed Forces so that it will be well equipped, trained, and effective to fulfill constitutional requirements in a joint environment. The word joint environment makes me happy, Because once a leader knows that his agency alone cannot solve the problem, no matter how powerful you are, or you need the police, you need the DSS, you need civil defense, in fact, you need other agencies for you to succeed. And once a leader says that, it makes me happy. And one other thing that makes me happy too, even the Chief of Army Staff on his own has said that, he said that all the army, the three chiefs, for example, the Chief of Air Staff, the Naval, and the Army, were all mates. So the synergy is there. And we all should understand that the police has a duty of internal security. And once the army has also recognized that, and you can see that in the operations, there is, to my own knowledge and how I've been following, they've been doing their best. Even the NSA, National Security Advisor, tomorrow you see him in the police office, tomorrow the other day you see him in either in the Chief of Army Staff office and other related. It means that people are walking around and they know that their principal would like to reduce this crisis. And I can tell you that without synergy, nobody will succeed. While I was chairman army in the first 2 years of my tenure, one of the crises Nigerians were complaining about of the issue of synergy. Because some people feel they can do it alone. And that has affected. But I think this time around, they are working together. And I believe that it has also reduced the incidences that has occurred. I can tell you off-air that today, if you look at the Kaduna Railroad, the incidence of kidnapping has reduced to a BRS minimum. I'm not saying that there's no challenges, but that is what we want. They have other challenges, and more importantly, Nigerians should understand that on the form of armed forces are not supposed to be doing police work for life. It's not true. They are supposed to intervene and go back. So that is why even when we were in the House, we advocate that the police should be well-trained, motivated, given enough equipment, so that and in a situation where the firepower is low and the army comes over to take over, once they liberate the areas, you allow the police and other people to come and take over. This is how the thing works. But of course, the problem we have faced severally is that anytime there is a security challenge, the first thing they will ask is the army. But people should understand that this is the police duties, and they are doing their job. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to reset the mind of people, and by the time we are able to reset the mind of people, relate with all these agencies. And lastly, from my background, is that once I appreciate the work of also the DSS, who is this major agency in terms of intelligence. No matter how powerful you are, whether you will require intelligence to succeed. And intelligence is not only gotten all from the agencies. The police have their own intelligence, also internal agencies. All other security agencies have their own, but DSS is the major. But the point we are talking about is that let heads of agencies agree to share intelligence. That is the only way we can succeed. There's no two ways about it.
All right, thank you so very much. And at this point in time, let's come to, well, the Ministry of Police Affairs. I mean, it's self-explanatory what it superintends. And the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Nasir Sani Gwarzo, is here with us. And first we'll say you are in charge of implementing government's policy as it relates to the police, which is the lead agency in terms of internal security.
Yes.
What can you say about what Nigerians are witnessing, and what is the thrust, the policy thrust of this government?
Thank you very much, Cyril. Let me start from my own perspective. Being a medical doctor, an epidemiologist, all my life I've been handling surveillance of diseases. Coming to this new sector, which is the security sector, the police sector, I find that there's a lot of similarity between fighting disease and fighting crime. Now, looking at it from what people's expectations are, they want to see a reduction in the fatalities, like Kabir said, the earlier speakers. They want to see an immediate cessation of abductions, kidnapping, etc. But believe me, after coming to the Ministry of Police Affairs, what I've seen, there's a lot of behind-the-scene work that is being done by the police to prevent, preempt, and make sure that the crimes do not even happen. On a daily basis, I receive crime statistics for the whole country. And when you plot it, just like Kabir has described the fluctuations between 1 month and another, comparison of this year and the last year, you will see the same fluctuations on a daily basis. Not just one crime, different major crimes. And that statistics give us the litmus test to show where we're heading. Now, coming to monitoring the performance of the police or ensuring that the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President is being complied with, we support the police to make sure that the environment, the policy environment, is very, very conducive for the police to operate. And we've identified so many gaps in policies that are being filled up. Those that have been the changes in the mandate, the changes in the policy, and also what we envisage Nigeria needs for the future. Looking at what we've seen and what is happening in the police today, my hope, my confidence has increased the deployment of technology. There are technologies that are being deployed by the police today that I believe, once fully rolled out, within a span of 3 months to 6 months, you can virtually go to the market, identify a criminal and tap him by the shoulder and say, come with me, because of the quality that is being invested in the police today. And coming to the synergy that has always been said, many crimes that have been preempted, prevented, you will see that this crime is about to be committed, and it is picked and nipped on the bud. So, honestly, my perception and that of the entire sector is that we are on the right trajectory, but success is slow, and it has to be so because it's not just the police alone. It's the entire security ecosystem, and we're on the right track.
All right, thank you so very much. Now let's come to the man whose boots are on the ground. And, you know, Assistant Commissioner of Police Olumiwa Adejobi is the spokesperson for the Nigeria Police Force. And tough job it is, right?
Exactly.
Very tough.
Very indeed.
And so on a daily basis, you have to deal with crimes, criminalities, it's all there. What do you say to Nigerians? What do you see? How much of it is the police putting in to preempt, as the Permanent Secretary said?
Well, let me just say clearly that we are not doing bad at all. Within 1 year now that we have the new president and new administration in Nigeria, is better off. And let me say, with what other speakers have said, we want to give kudos to the president for appointing the right pegs in the right holes. That's the first thing. For us in the police, the new leadership is fantastic. One, when you have a leader who comes on board with his own vision, not somebody who is on the seat and just trying to gather ideas, you know there is going to be a great difference. So when the IGB came, he came with a vision statement. They actually want to emplace that police institution that is professionally competent. Mark his words, professionally competent. Rule of law compliant, service driven, and people friendly. You cannot achieve this without putting certain measures on ground and having certain initiatives. So he was able to draw this, and he has been able to implement some of these policies he has made. One, you know, we can't continue to be reactive to incidences in this country. We have a digital world, and we need to be digital. So the IGP started by upgrading the intelligence department. We used to have Force Intelligence Bureau before, but now we have Force Intelligence Department. We upgraded the department, the full-fledged department, by appointing a deputy inspector general of police in charge of that place. And now across our commands and formations, particularly zonal headquarters, the 17 zonal headquarters we have, and the 37 command headquarters, including the Federal Capital Territory, we are having assistant commissioners of police in charge of our intelligence units. Invariably, and what this simply means is that, of course, as an assistant commissioner of police, we expect much from you in terms of gathering intelligence. And you want to gather intelligence, you need to incorporate all sectors into the system. Like experts have said, you members of the public, all sectors, artisans, women, the youths, including all these towing vehicles that we have on highways, we are using all of them to gather intelligence. And with all this, the IGP again tried to make sure that we have robust welfare for our men. We want motivations for them. On the issue of salary, I think is working with the federal government to see what we can do. He has been able to tell our men that, come, if you go out there to work, your lives must be insured. So for the first time, we're having Nigerian Police Insurance Company Limited. That one has been registered. And we've been able to do so many things with that, paying entitlement of our fallen heroes. Responding to issue of accommodation, you know, is a big problem. Men always feel sad that after my day job, working up and down, running from pillar to post, I don't have a good place to put my head. So the IGP is addressing that. For the first time, we're having Nigerian Police Housing Summit. We had a summit recently in April, and we've been able to draw certain areas where we'll be able to take care of these accommodation problems. The issue of promotion is there. I mean, we always complain, I've been neglected, I've not been promoted. The IGP has been able to promote almost 40,000 officers across the ladder. So generally as security, I feel sad when some people say, we don't work. I say, we have officers that have paid the supreme price. We have officers that have fallen heroes. And if we don't do what we should, are they killed in their houses? They're actually on the field, responding to incidences. And don't forget, the dimensions of some of these crimes these days are worrisome. As a responsible police institution, you should be able to have dynamic ideas to curtail some of these the dimensions into some of these crimes. Before, an armed robber will not come to your village like that. In fact, a thief will tiptoe to your house. But nowadays, it got to a stage, another dimension was that they're going to write to that community that we are coming, prepare for us, give us pounded yam and egusi soup. It got to a stage that they will come and they will be there for some times. So we need to understand and study the dimensions of some of these crimes and criminality. You know kidnapping. You know the difference between abduction and kidnapping. But now in kidnapping, there was a time they would kidnap. Kidnapping was just a pure business. I will kidnap and I get my ransom and go. But study the typology of kidnapping now. It got to a stage they will kidnap, they will get ransom, they will not release the victim. Another dimension came that they would kidnap, they will collect the ransom, kill the victim, and still negotiate for the release of the cause of the victim.
Right.
So some of these challenges that come up, we have been able now to study this, and with the implementation of what I call electronic policing, we've been able to get so many things. Don't forget we have Nigerian Police Cyber Crime Center. They're helping us to get certain information using technology to get all this. Within the last 1 year, we've been able to rescue more than 880 something victims. We've been able to arrest 773 suspected kidnappers. 1,566 armed robbery suspects have been arrested. And talking of arms, we've been able now to say, if you follow the trends of achievement of the police, you see that we focus more on breaking the cartel of supplying of arms and ammunition, production of locally fabricated arms and ammunition. In some areas, in some states now, we have identified some of these factories. The police is doing that. The armed forces doing that. I can say we've been able to recover 3,700 100 plus arms of various calibers. I'm not even talking of locally, I'm not talking of ding guns, I'm talking of fine guns are automatic. Some of them, rifles of our officers, soldiers, police operative, other security agencies that were killed, and their rifles taken away. We've been able to recover some of them. Are you talking of ammunition of 4,000 ammunition of various calibers that we have recovered? And when you see all this, you wonder how some of them are getting this. But we don't want to limit, we want to expand, spread our tentacles to actually getting suppliers or those who are behind some of these productions of these illegal or illicit arms. So generally, I can say in the last 1 year, we've been able to arrest 11,100 suspects for various offenses ranging from armed robbery, kidnapping, homicide, that is murder in the south, homicide in the north, cultism, natural offenses, and rape, defilement, and all those offenses. And we have been able to have prosecution of 29,100 prosecutions. Because if you arrest, we must send it off somewhere. That era has gone that you arrest, you don't go to court to prosecute. We need to prosecute to have justice for some of these cases. And we have 78,000 plus concluded already. So I know this figure is just from the police cycle. If you go to the defense will tell you what they have. I'm sure they're coming, I think you said next week, they'll be coming. You see what they have from defense. Bring all this together, we have done well. We have not done bad at all.
All of this is taking place in a society where the police, you still have to contend with those, if we could call them, lesser offenses of snatching of phones, bags, and burglaries, and things like that. And and these are all incorporated in all of this.
There are levels and grades in crime and criminality. If somebody slaps you and take away your phone today, that is stealing from person. It is not checkmated. You want to try another crime tomorrow. Perhaps you want to be elevated to snapping using any offensive weapon to take it. That is not stealing from person. That's robbery or armed robbery, as the case may be. So every offense or every criminal must be checkmated before he gets to another level. So even ordinary rape, don't say ordinary rape. Rape is a capital offense, a very serious offense. If a rapist is not checkmated today, he has raped one, he will rape two. Then from rape, after raping, if he gets to somebody's house, he will rape, then he will say, okay, waiting the area, I go carry. That is still in coming up. So every criminal must be checkmated before they grow wings.
And the dimensions.
All right.
In addition to the domestic front, the Nigeria police plays a very key role in West Africa. We have the West African Police Service, WAPIS. We have Interpol. In my little stay in the ministry, Interpol and WAPIS has visited Nigeria at the highest level because of the value that Nigeria police adds to the system, including also the United Nations program, interventions in the whole, across the world. So Nigeria police, even beyond the domestic cycle, plays a key role at international level.
Okay. Well, apart from the discussion here in the studio, we also have other reports, and we'll take the very first one now from Lagos.
On the day of his inauguration in May 29, 2023, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took on the role of Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. He promised to adopt a new strategy in putting an end to the problem of insecurity in the country. A new approach to tackling insecurity, such as kidnapping, banditry, was the clamor by Nigerians before the president was sworn in. With the appointment of new experienced service chiefs and other security heads, President Tinubu's tenure so far in the last 1 year has been described as battle-ready to end insecurity in the country.
It's a pass mark for Mr. President. So much has been achieved. The hula balu is no longer so much not too much of killings in the northeast.
The security heads are grappling with the situation and facing the challenges head on to ensure that Nigerians get a better deal in terms of security.
In Lagos, southwest Nigeria, President Tinubu's admonition to security organizations to work in synergy through intelligence sharing and collaboration with neighboring countries has recorded huge success, with the customs and NDLEA role in checking the proliferation and influx of small arms and illicit drugs in circulation.
Create a more conducive relationship with our neighbors, especially Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, because that's where these small arms are moving into Nigeria.
What Mr. President is doing now with the chiefs is to work with the Nigerian customs that is in charge of checking the goods and services that come into this country. Drug has been a very big problem because without the use of drugs, some of these terrorists will not be able to operate actively.
We are all out to ensure that the bad guys do not have a breathing space wherever they are. We'll go after them, and we're doing that. And that's why you see the situation is improving. We'll continue to do that. We want Nigeria to return back to how it used to be.
President Tinubu's method in using proactiveness and intelligence-driven security approach, according to experts, has paid off as there is a reduction in insecurity challenges. In Lagos, Bolaji Akim.
Our next report comes from Kaduna.
Over the years, Nigeria has been caught up in the fight against terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping, where Kaduna is having its own share of insecurity with schools as soft targets. While the government and insecurity operatives are not sparing any effort in decimating the criminals, active participation of some bad eggs in the communities remain a hindrance to the war.
When a stranger comes into an area, is quickly identified, unlike now.
Military, police, and other sister security agencies in recent record some feats in eliminating the enemy. Top commanders and the Nigerian Army exercise Restore Hope, where warriors are charged to comb the hideout of their criminals, bring them to their knees.
Set of graduates will be deployed in another theater, and I believe they will prove their mettle there and combat the threats there. So overall, what is expected is that we will continue to witness improved stability across the theater.
There's an ongoing operation since 2022, and that operation was formed and placed under the military. But all services are operating.
Stakeholders say effective community policing is another great avenue when properly harnessed will checkmate the bad egg amongst the people, as every security is local.
Society should be the watchdog of its own self.
Quite a number of people have information that are credible, but they are afraid to say it.
The community has a responsibility of providing credible and timely information and intelligence.
Acknowledge the government's effort in ensuring a crime-free society.
And from Kaduna, we go over to Oka for this next report.
It is the expectation of every individual to live in a society that is secured and devoid of danger or threat. This is why experts say a vital role of any government is to provide for national security for its citizens, and Nigeria must maintain a collaborative effort with technologically advanced countries seeking access to technology to boost its security and national defense.
We have received goodwills from the Inspector General of Police through the presidency, where he has supported us with operational vehicles that we use in doing our duties. He has also extended an operation launched, noting the fact that students and schools have become places where these criminal-minded persons attack. They launched this operation called Operation Safe School, where it's being anchored by all the Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of operations in respective states. And Anambra happens to be one of the states that received this goodwill.
In addressing security situation in Nigeria, the funds meant for that purpose should be utilized, and experts should be brought in. If government don't have the manpower wherewithal to arrange the security situation in Nigeria, they should look for foreign assistance.
So the president, good at it, the president has been there. the money will be sourced. Then what is left for the president is to deploy what I may call political will, political sagacity, political capacity to ensure effective implementation and supervision of the funds meant for security matters.
With efforts geared towards internal peace and stability, government in Anambra State is making efforts to ensure safety of lives and properties.
The state government have also supported us immensely, especially in the reach out to members of the public, the stakeholders, talking to them, and to make sure that everybody, all hands are on deck in this fight against criminality and crime.
Today in Anambra State, for instance, we have vigilante that we are using. And believe you me, they are yielding results.
In all, they pointed out that national security is a collective responsibility and process to which every citizen is a part and must continue to subscribe for maximum protection.
All right, we're back here in the studio. We haven't had the privilege of seeing all those reports there, but there's a trend that some Nigerians would always ask and worry about and ask questions about. And Dr. Kabir Adamu, I'd like you to look at that. It would seem as if the more sophisticated the society gets, the more sophisticated the crime and criminal activities also get. I mean, we're a far cry from back in those days where all you needed to worry about is a few clothes being stolen off the clothes line at the back of your yard. And, that was even before armed robbery found its way in here. Now, the criminals are devising more sophisticated methods. How much of that should the Nigerian security agencies step up to be able to, take care of?
Thank you, Cyril. I think your question brings us to the area of the drivers of insecurity. There are several drivers, but I think the particular reference you are alluding to or making is with regards to the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the country. It's indeed a huge challenge, and most of the violent crimes that occur in the country are only done because of the access to those small arms and light weapons. Several studies, including one by the company I run, have shown clearly how Nigeria is the receiving or end point of the influx of these small arms and light weapons. And if you dig deeper, there are several reasons, some of them political. So as an example, ahead of any elections, actually, you see the demand for these small arms and light weapons increasing. And those that are demanding those small arms and light weapons could be sometimes politicians. I don't want to generalize, but embedded in that would be politicians. Then the criminals themselves who want to make themselves available to the politicians. And then, of course, what in some places have been called conflict entrepreneurs. So they access those weapons and then use it to exact influence, sometimes to achieve political benefits. Now, the other part of it is after the elections, especially if that component that recruited these non-state actors to exercise influence are not the ones who win the elections. You now have a huge group of especially youths who have been armed, and then at that point, there is really nothing to give them. And so they become another threat, as it were. And then you now see tough war going on between the groups of gangs, as it were, trying to exact influence within the group. So that's one major issue that we've seen. But also closely associated with that is the ineffective criminal justice system that is failing to arrest and punish these offenders, from the gun runners themselves to those who either purchase or have access to the weapons, and then to those who use them. I know the Force PRO has mentioned the number of persons they arrest, and then of course the ones they prosecute. But then because we feel the pulse of Nigerians, which I'm sure you also do, there is a huge gap between the expectations of Nigerians and what it's being done at the moment. And that's not in any way discrediting the effort of either the police or the other security agencies. The mere fact that you have a huge call at the moment for state police, I think, is an indication that a majority of Nigerians want an improvement in the policing sector. Of course, the drug issue has been mentioned in your report. It's also a driver. And then, of course, the grievances that unfortunately have increased as a result of the socio-economic conditions that we are currently in. Some have called it the cost of living crisis. At the moment, I think inflation is about 34% or thereabout. We used to buy a bag of rice at about 34,000. Right now, it's about, I think, 80,000 or thereabout, depending on where you buy it. So a lot of people, unfortunately, are either in a circumstance where they can easily be incentivized into joining the crime gangs or not. Others, unfortunately, are also the incentivization by the criminals themselves. And this is very common in places where you have banditry. The echo space that banditry represents has allowed, especially kidnapping-associated banditry, because they have access to money, they're able to use that money to recruit several persons within that echo space. And then, of course, you also have the certain developments. In one of your reports, you mentioned the creation of vigilantes. Now, in especially the Northwest, we have seen where the creation of vigilantes have in itself created additional security challenges. And the reason is those vigilantes are not reflective sometimes of the various components within the society. So the desire for inclusion is sometimes missing within those vigilantes. The other challenge with the vigilantes, and I'm just summarizing, is the very short and I would say ineffective training that they've received. They do not understand that their powers do not include prosecution. So in certain instances, you see them arresting and then prosecuting the suspects. There are so many instances that I can cite where. So all of these drivers together, unfortunately, have created the circumstances where the backdoor crimes that we used to know that could be managed by sometimes just elders even calling the suspects or the perpetrators and then berating them, have now graduated to a point where they can, like it happened today in Zamfara, they attacked a community in the daytime, and according to reports, a significant number of residents of that community are missing up until today, and maybe by tomorrow the ransom demand will be made. So that's the circumstance we are today. Part of the challenge is the current security structure, and I think the PAMSEC knows. I don't want to highlight that point, but I do play a role at the very high level in terms of reviewing the performances of security organizations within the country. And so whatever I say is tied to that. The major challenge at the moment is the deployment of security, especially at the rural communities. Okay. We have deployment a lot in the cities, but in the rural communities, as you go into the rural, you see gaps. And these gaps is exemplified in what we call ungoverned spaces, where unfortunately you now see huge numbers of these criminals. They are able to hibernate there. They are able to carry out their plan. In certain instances, they are able to attack communities and then retreat to those ungoverned spaces. These are realities that we're dealing with at the moment.
Okay. Well, there's an aspect of what Kabiru has talked about which interests me, and I would like Honorable Namdas to come in on that aspect. He's talked about discontent and the relationship between politics and thuggery, which of course sometimes metamorphoses into crime, criminality. In the last 1 year, how would you assess the efforts of those who manage the affairs of the country in promoting good governance? Because what he's talking about borders on good governance, response to the aims and the aspirations of the people, ensuring that the state performs its functions to those who have elected citizens to hold office. How well has the government done in promoting good governance that in turn would reflect on how the institutions of both the state and how the citizens themselves conceive their relationship with their leaders?
Thank you so much. Mr. Cyril, I want to say that before I come with, let me say that there is political toggery. This is a known fact from a very long time. But I want to give a background that studies have shown that there are about 500 million illegal weapons, particularly small arms and light weapons in Africa. And 70%, according to the report, is in Nigeria. And this is because Nigeria has over 200 million population. Out of the 200 million population, the youths constitute a chunk of that population. And most of them are also in the unemployment market. There's no jobs. And apart from the fact that people always talk about politicians using toggery, I can tell you safely, large chunk of people who are not employed on their own, they are also a problem to the nation. And that is why I keep saying that war on terror, banditry, cannot just be achieved through kinetic means, using guns. We as politicians, whether Nigeria runs a federal system of government, you have the federal government, the state government, the local government. But I can tell you, once there is a challenge, an ordinary person will only talk about Tinubu has not worked. He forget that there is a state government, he forget there is a local government. And therefore, once policies are meant to, using non-kinetic methods, provide jobs, create employment opportunities, naturally, this criminality will reduce. And there's a trend, Cyril, that is going in this country. Well, I commend the armed forces, the police, and the DSS in doing their job. The trend that is worrisome in this country is about mass kidnapping. And this mass kidnapping, they kidnap school children in large numbers. And I'm happy to report that the one that took place in Kaduna, the armed forces, the police, and whatever, were able to nip it in the bud, and at least they were able to bring back the people. There was also one in Confluence University in Kogi. They also nip in the bud. But the point we are making is that efforts should be made to the manner that this kidnapping should not even take place in the first place. That is the most important thing, not about bringing them back. And the only reason why we can do that safely is about intelligence. I will share to you my experience. In those days, they used to complain that there are no shares of intelligence, as I said before, which led to the Kuje jailbreak. I was on a committee with the DG of the DSS and other honorable members who were on the committee to investigate the jailbreak. When we were talking about intelligence sharing, we found out that the DGSS showed us reports, intelligence reports that was supplied to the head of Kuje Prison and Correctional Centers. Not more than 10 of those reports, if not more, but because there was no action. So what I'm trying to say here is that even while government is doing its own bit, people that have been given responsibilities should live up to their responsibilities. When an agency or a police or the intelligence tells you that, look, there's likely to be a problem here, you don't just take it for granted because we are talking of lives. So I know that politicians have our own challenges during elections. But if you look at trends of events, truly, we too, we cannot encourage that. Because for you to be successful as a honorable member, I like to walk among my people, move around, shake hands with them that I represent them. But if I cannot sit on the table with them and move around with them, I must move with security. I think I am not also doing myself any good. So that is why there is need for all of us to work together and see that things are done well. So that's why I said we should work, please. We should encourage the police and the armed forces with information sharing. So no matter how strong you are, if you don't, because they are not spirits, they are human beings like us. They require that. And lastly, I must tell you that one thing that I was happy about was in the last 2 days ago, the son of Al-Barnawi in Maiduguri surrendered with his people, with family members and what have you. In fact, it is because the police, the armed forces, and all other security agents and DSS that are giving them trouble, that have also worked towards, okay, let us surrender. But once these people surrender, sir, people should not go back to sleep. Because the problem with Nigeria, I'm not talking of only agencies of Nigeria, everywhere. If we record success, we try to relax. Before you realize, the people will hit back. And when they hit back fatally. We have seen instances where people in correctional centers or people who said we have surrendered and we are no longer going to take part. Once they are rehabilitated and sent away, you will see him on social media. We say, okay, I am back to the trenches. And so these are some of the fears that we have, but I think they are doing their best.
Well, we'll take a short break here. When we return, the conversation will continue, and hopefully we'll be able to take your calls. Nasser Sanu Gwarzu, obviously, to get the police as an institution to operate at optimal level, the government has got to put a number of things in place and, enhance both training, welfare, and the lot for them to. In the last 1 year, how much of this has the government done to boost this agency that a whole load rests on when you talk about internal security?
Well, thank you very much, Cyril. First of all, let me start with the leadership. As you heard from the PRO, the leadership in the police is up and doing. The IGP and his team have shown tremendous increase in commitment to fighting crime. And the synergy between the ministry, people have spoken a lot about intra-agency synergy. Within the system, the police ecosystem, the synergy has been improving and increasing. I can tell you the level of collaboration between the ministry and the police has improved tremendously. We have in the ministry a leadership that has experienced high level of insecurity as a governor. Our minister, current minister, was governor for almost 10 years. He experienced the insecurity and he knows the value of police. So I have seen very close collaboration between the ministry and also the police. Then coming to the number of police officers that are in the field, federal government has approved the recruitment of police. This batch of recruitment that is ongoing at the moment is the 2022 batch, and we have 10,000. Immediately following that is 2023, 2024. Within a very short time, we're going to have a minimum of 30,000 increase in police new recruits. That is not talking about those that are going directly to the police academy, and those also that are going to be increased on an annual basis. And the training institutions are also being revamped. Now, that is on the number. The equipment, just like the military has procured a lot of equipment, the same thing with the police. Right now, I have seen almost 3 or 4 budget lines that have been rolled out, but this is not something for me to divulge here. Right. But then, most importantly, technology. We have a minimum of 20 to 24 new projects on different aspects of technology. If you look at police communication, they rely on different communication channels. But the new communication channel that is being rolled out for the police, when it comes on board, somebody from Port Harcourt can speak at the same, like an intercom with another person in Gaidam or in a village in Sokoto. That will improve the communication. Then also the database. Right now, there's so much databases that are being developed or that have reached almost final stage. From my office as permanent secretary, I can show you a lot of things that are happening within the police ecosystem that are being remitted to the ministry. So that synergy is on. Like I said, I have never been this confident in what I've seen or what I've heard, that what I've seen at the moment. I believe once these things are rolled out, within a few months, the story of Nigeria policing will completely change.
Well, the lines are already working, and we have our first caller tonight.
I'm still on the line.
Solomon. Oh, thank you very much for staying on. Solomon from Kubwa, go ahead.
Yes. My question goes like this. I have seen several occasions in Kubwa here that a policeman going on night duty, they will be on the bar drinking alcohol before going to duty or going to the road checking point. Is it part of the police reform? Please, let me ask a PRO.
All right. Solomon from Kubwa.
Secondly, I have seen police in day of their barracks going one way. As a enforcement agency going one way. What is the example are they giving us as a children or as a youth in Nigeria? Thirdly, the way they are using sarin, I have been to another country already. When you see sarin, some people go sarin with say they are taking dogs to the hospital or they are going on emergency. It will happen that yes, you are going to somewhere, somebody will now come to your back and begin drive sarin, drive you away from road. If you are not be careful, you may like to go and jam another person that close to you. Please, I want you people to enlighten me about this siren of a thing. It happened to me yesterday in Abasha, when I was going towards AYA. The way police run onto me, brown one with the machine and everything. I didn't know all of us are not human beings. That we not got
all right.
of the road.
Solomon, thank you. Sir. Yes, the PRO will address those because, yes, I see where you're going to. The question of police and alcohol. All these have a bearing on insecurity. A policeman who is on duty under the influence may not be what you need for arresting the situation that we have on hand now. And sometimes you say police personnel also engage in activities that promote the breakdown of law in society. That also has something to do with insecurity general. But it's okay, the PRO is here, he will speak.
Well, Solomon from Cuba, taking alcohol on duty is a disciplinary offense. It's not proper. Though we agree that a police officer has his own private life, but not to the extent of drinking alcohol on uniform. It's a disciplinary offense. I want to blame its immediate sectional head or head of department for that. It's not proper. And I want to encourage Nigerians, when you see them do that, you can easily call us. We have rolled out all our numbers. When you follow our handles on social media platforms, you see we roll out these numbers, not just for rolling out sake, but for you to always get across to us. So when you notice that, please don't hesitate to get across to us. If you have not been following us online, you can do so. It doesn't cost you anything. It is not proper and we will not support that. And on the issue of one way, it's wrong to drive against the traffic, except they're on emergency. And it's only that man behind the wheel that knows whether it's on emergency or not. We cannot judge here. But we are expected as police officers, as security operatives, not only the police, we're expected to be above board and suspicion. So whatever I want to do, I think we need to always leave good examples so that people will not continue to attack us. And I think the third one is on the issue of siren or no siren. Well, emergencies, you use siren, but now you know many Nigerians even use sirens indiscriminately. But let me say that most of those convoys you see are convoys that are so-called VIPs. Most of these men that you see blaring sirens on patrol and convoy, they are not actually for police operations. So we want to appeal to our VIPs. Don't encourage your security operatives, security aides to misbehave. We are giving them to you to protect you because you are entitled to them. But don't encourage them to misbehave. Using a force whip or kondo or sticks to beat people, to hit people's vehicle, it's not allowed. It's inhuman and it's barbaric. So, but you notice that many cases on our tables that Nigerians have reported some of these cases. We have taken up some of these cases. But we want to condemn such an act here on this platform this night. So it is not part of us, it's on police. is condemned in totality.
Okay, well, quickly, we have another caller. We'll come back to some of those issues. We have another caller, a regular caller on this program, Umar Anachi from Birnin Kebi.
Hello, Mr. Cyril.
Yes, go ahead, Umar.
Good evening. Including all the discussion here. Good evening to you. I'm not a security expert, but I will try my own best. The issue of security in Nigeria is very wide. But what I can say is that there is lack of synergy. That lack of synergy that Abraham Lambda talk about is very important. Lack of synergy among the governors. The governors of northern part of this country, they are not cooperating as one entity to face the security challenges. And there is lack of synergy among the security agencies themselves. You see the police fighting the army fighting the other security agencies. Right from recruitment, they have to share intelligence agencies, right from recruitment. If it is not qualified to be an army, he is equally not qualified to become another security agent. They will share information. They will if they point Mr. A here, they point Mr. A there. All other security agencies he went to, they should not recruit him. So that is one area, is this lack of synergy. Then another area is the intelligence agencies. Intelligence information is the key to the security agencies. Then another area is the use of technology. Use of technology, these CCTV cameras, drones, and other security gadgets. The use of them is very important. And finally, our bank of corruption. There is need for all of us to be corrupt-free. Unless the corruption is removed out of the security agencies, out of the governors, and other aspects, this corruption is the key area where the government needs to be hammered on for the security improvement. And I have seen that there is development in the security in these days. In these days, I have noticed that there is security development. May God continue to bless our country so that we can sustain the development. Amen. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Umar Anachi. Yes, Dr. Nasus Anugwazo, you were coming in here on one of these issues.
I wanted to add something to the police issue regarding misconduct of police in some areas. The police has made a lot of efforts to improve not only the conduct of the police, but also the perception in the public. And they have created within the police system ways of receiving reports to improve discipline. But also at ministry level, we have created what we call the Police Public Complaints Committee. And it's a one of the most active committees in the ministry. We receive reports and we receive complaints and we address them and send back. And I must say that the IG has played a key role. Each time we send a complaint with recommendations on what to do to erring police officers, he sends back a report that it has been implemented. So I want to encourage the public, if you have a problem with the police, do not just say it on the social media, report to the police itself, and if action is not taken, report to the ministry. That way you show you receive justice and discipline will be improved in the police system. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Dr. Kabir Adamu, another aspect that is worrisome is the ease with which criminal elements access, communities, in Nigeria, and so many have blamed it on the porous borders. Okay, just before we come to you with that, let's take this caller from Enugu. Edward, calling in from Enugu. Hello, Edward. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey. Am I on live?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you people for the quality of discussion. But I just want to say that we need to do more of self-criticism. I thank the Kabiru for some of the background is given to us. I will wish another time that we have more of data, let people know the exact. Like the police bureau, yes, I know it is duty to do the image, launder the image anyway. But let's get more of data. Like Kabiru gave us some, more of data where we are failing. Let's not just launder our image. Where we are failing so that people will also know our challenges, why we are failing. Because I have background of the security field, I had one of the reports talk about DICON. I want to use it as an example. Established since 1964. I wish that in this discussion panel, if we have gotten somebody from military and other security agencies, we will be able to discuss military industrial complex like DICON, because those are the areas we need to offer our items, make sure that we at least establish what we can use. Small arms that police can use. With the economy now, you see there's no way we can be able to get these things right with importing everything. Let me tell you, DICON, for example, its headquarters is in Ahmad Bello Way. Its factory is in Akuri. I'm saying this now because it is one thing I will want to be corrected. If I have a company and the MD is staying in town, my factory is somewhere in the bush, it cannot coordinate. For example, this is my contribution. If it will make it that this administration will take off DICON headquarters out of the town, merge it in the factory, let it start producing. Even if it's ammunition, they have partners that can do that, but it's not doing it effectively. I don't want to criticize them too much, but I just want to say that to make sure that maybe something is done in that aspect. I also want police to at times come out and criticize themselves, because each time we say, well, we are doing something better. There are things that their members do that we must agree is lowering the effectiveness of the whole war we are fighting. If we can make sure that they criticize themselves a bit for us, so that we pity them. We know they're among us. They are Nigerians, but there are a lot of things our policemen do that should be condemned even by the police openly, so that we'll be able to fight this war effectively. I don't want to go into certain details because I'm an insider. So, but what I'm just saying is, well, so far so good. Well done. And I believe the next 1 year will be better. I have a lot of inside information which I will be able to share probably with the permanent secretary in next week to come. I will visit him. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much. And just to quickly note that if you, at the start of this program, we did mention that this is the first of a two-part series, and that the concluding part would take place next week, and we would have the Minister of Defense and the Chief of Defense Staff who will be here, and perhaps the matter of DICON, which you're raising, we'll put it to them to respond to it. Thank you very much, Edward, calling in from Enugu. All right. Back to the studio here. We were just in the process of asking Dr. Kabiru Adamu to comment on the porous nature of Nigeria's borders and the ease with which criminal elements can gain access, and some from neighboring countries who could even pass for Nigerians. It's getting extremely difficult to identify who's who. How well have we done in that area?
Thank you, Cyril. So just to comment on the question by Edward, in my opening remarks I did talk about DICON. I think this administration has done tremendously well in that area. The President signed or assented to the DICON bill, which matched the military-industrial complex with DICON, and I mentioned that he traveled to at least about 3 countries and was able to get investment to the tune of, I think, almost about $3 billion, where our international partners are currently working with us. And the aim of the administration is that by 2027, 40% of our equipment need will be sourced locally. And I think that's the way to go. I agree with, I think, Edward. The reliance on importation of our equipment need is not sustainable, given the economic challenges that we have. Now, having said that, your question regarding the porosity of our borders, there are, to my knowledge, 2 major organizations that have responsibility for border protection, and that is the immigration, and that of custom is debatable. They will tell you that they are not essentially a security organization. They are more, revenue generating than security, even though in reality they are security, because they do play a security role. Now, why I mentioned that is their mandate is very clear. They have that responsibility, and I think immigration actually has a higher responsibility in that regard. And there is a border protection plan that was developed by Ministry of Interior that has identified stakeholders, especially the security departments, including the police, that are playing several roles in border protection. But the challenge is the size of our border. And then, of course, funding challenges that has limited our ability to have formal borders. I think we have more informal borders than actually formal borders. The second challenge is the distrust that exists between us and our neighbors. And unfortunately, that challenge has been increased as a result of development in Niger at the moment, after the coup in July last year, and the steps that ECOWAS took. The level of distrust between us has increased, and 7 states in Nigeria share border with Niger. So it's a little bit difficult to cooperate with them like we used to in the past. Same thing if you go to our border with Cameroon, and then of course with the other countries that we are coterminous with. Now, where those countries' institutions are weak, and they are weak for a lot of reasons. In the case of Niger, after the coup, the military pulled a lot of their security agencies from the border area back into the hinterland, and so gaps have been created. Now, these are some of the challenges that affect. The other one is also ECOWAS free movement. Unfortunately, we've not been able to document, as it were. So one of the things that this administration did, and it's ongoing, it's work in progress, is to harmonize our data, capabilities, collection capabilities. NIMSI has been moved from where it was before now to Ministry of Integration, also a commendable move. And I think one of the most vulnerable populations that has not been captured before now is the pastoralist community. And we know that as part of the future plans of this administration will be to increase the documentation of all aspects of the society, as it were. Let everybody have...
All right. Okay, let's quickly go back to the phone lines. Jide calling in from Lagos. Hello, Jide. Thanks for staying on.
Good.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. Greet everybody.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead.
There are some things I would like to raise here this evening. I want the police officer there to be able to answer me this. When I want to know if not citizen the number one priority of police for police officers. In a situation where you are in danger and you call the police in their police station and reporting things that are endangering to the life of citizens outside there, they will ask you to come to their station. That you should come from wherever you are, you come to their station to come and report officially, and in order to make a way to extort money from you and ask you to even start that vehicle or charter keke napep for you to be able to transport them there, and before they can do anything. And at times, they extort you at the counter. They started telling you, hey, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to spend our home money? Please, what is all this? Please, I want the police officer there, police man, Olomuyiwa, sir, to please help us say something on this thing. Our policemen should please put integrity on all these areas. The integrity, they are making the police people to hate the police officers, the system every day with this attitude. All professional police officers in the police stations, and the way they even conduct themselves, carry themselves around in the society, it doesn't make anybody to even want to like the job. So that's what I say I should
All right. Thank you very much, Jide from Lagos. Thank you, Jide. Right. Well, his concerns about the response of the police in emergencies.
Well, let me clarify one thing. There's a difference between lodging a complaint and making a distress call. Mm-hmm. You make a distress call, it's just to tell them there's a problem at so place. Please come to our rescue. By the time you are giving an explanation of something, perhaps you have an issue with your house or your neighbor, you are having an issue and there's a problem like this and that, they will tell you, come and lodge an official complaint. And there's no I want to institute an investigation without the complainant. That is the truth. So if they ask you to come to the police station, you need to go. But we would not support that. If you monitor my activities online too and our statements, we have always been telling Nigerians not to dance to the tune of some of these individuals. We have challenges in the police, but we would not allow these challenges to take away our integrity, our reputation, and our seriousness about certain issues. If there's a problem, I always tell the charge room officers, that's the major thing. What Nigerians call counter. We call it charge room offices. When you get there, you must see a charge room officer who is in charge to attend to you, to incident your case and refer appropriately. But we always have problems of extortion, complaints of extortion from Nigerians against the charge room officers. And that's why there was a time the force headquarters rolled out a directive that a charge room officer must be an SPO, that is a superior police officer, not a sergeant or an inspector, so that he can be held responsible as a superior police officer. Right. So when we have a complaint like this, we need to understand the fact that I always tell people that if that man in the charge room is going out of his bounds, demanding for what he should not demand for, you see that strategically the police, the DPO's office is situated close to the charge room. It's for a reason. Any station you get to, you see this DPO's office and this is the charge room. It's for a reason that when you have an issue, I've always been telling Nigerians, go and ask for the DPO. The DPO is also someone in charge of this place has asked me to come and pay for this, to come and pay for this. Let's see whether a DPO would dignify that by even telling you to go and pay. We have summoned so many DPOs. We have checkmating mechanisms in the police. we have that standard to discipline, internal mechanism to discipline our officers. And you follow the trend of activities, you see that on a regular basis I make statements of those that have been dismissed for criminal offenses, those that have been punished for disciplinary offenses. So it is not part of our system to add additional burden to your problem. We are expected at various police stations to be messiahs, quote and unquote, to those who are crying to us, and we should be able to put smiles on their faces. Always get across to us when you encounter some of this, and when you experience this, get to us, and always look for, at every point in time, there must be a very senior officer in charge of that station. If the DPO is not there, the DCO must be there. And again, if you don't have any one of them, there must be what we call an incident duty officer. Ask for the DPO, DCO, or incident duty officer who is supposed to take charge when the DPO is not there, when the DCO is not there, when SP is not on ground. There must be an incident duty officer who is to take charge of some of this. We are not in support of that, and please always get across to us. You are expected to report all cases to us, and we will not do anything that will send you away to go and seek local help or to go for a lawful trial by going to one Babalawo or going to one person. We want all incidences reported, at least to correct such and to have good data to assess or evaluate happenings around us and to help us take decisions appropriately. So get across to us and complain if you experience that.
Let's go over to Akwa Ibom. Ima is calling in. Hello, Ima, are you there? Go ahead. Is he there?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead, please.
My question is, let me first of all, good evening, are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead.
Let me first of all put yes. I want to just speak a little for what my colleagues are saying about the insecurity. So,
Ima, we would have to cut you off because it doesn't seem as if you read.
The fault of all this insecurity now, no need of blame.
All right. I think we'll have much time.
From our police people, what I'm trying to say is that let me say from our leaders, because from our leaders, when we talk about emergency, when we are talking about emergency that nobody answer you, people are coming to save your life or anything like that.
Well, you know what we're going to do, Ima? When you gather your thoughts properly and you're certain what you want to say or ask or contribute to this discussion, then you can call back. But we have very limited time. Just take some time off and think again about what you want to say, and then you can call us back. Thank you very much for calling in. All right. Okay. Well, back here. Last 1 year, we've had to deal with all these issues. And as Kabir had put into perspective for us, at some point in time, you've witnessed a reduction. At some other point in time, there's been a slight increase in it. Now, from the point of view of the citizens themselves, how well might the citizens have helped in stemming the tide of insecurity? I mean, there are certain things that citizens have been called upon, being aware of their surroundings, helping out with intelligence, and keeping an eye on the activities of certain people whose character in society leaves a lot to be desired.
Yes, really, I must tell you that across Nigeria, you find Nigerian citizens have developed habits of protecting themselves in addition to what the police can do. Because if you go to even estates, even in Abuja, wherever, you find people feel that, look, with the current situation of insecurity, we will not allow only the security agencies to be doing their job. Why can't we put our heads together and get people? That's why they recruit people, vigilante, some not professionals actually, but they have to get clearance from some police areas. So they've been helping around to keep peace and maintain order in several villages, societies. I think they've been doing quite good. But I think the most critical thing is that I want to say that governments should work on infrastructure. And I give you an example. You see, if there's a distress call now here, and you have platoons, soldiers, or policemen that you want to deploy to a next place, assume there's a crisis taking place in the neighborhood that about 5 to 10 kilometers. If there is no good road, no matter how good a soldier is or a police officer is, before he deploy a particular personnel to move from point A to point B, I can tell you that those non-state actors must have gotten information that security men are coming to them. And part of the reason why they get delayed, like I have been to Maiduguri because of my position as chairman House Committee on Army, you find out that if they report an incident, before they move to the next place, because these guys will plant mines on the way. So state government, the state government of Borno State has been doing quite all right. But you know, across the country, we want them to do so also, so that personnel can move freely from point A to point B. And we're not talking about tied roads. Sometimes, not in the cities, even in the village, those cities, some of the villages need to be tied. We provide those infrastructure so that once there is a challenge or a call or distress call that personnel should move from one village to the next, they shouldn't take a number of hours to get to the next place. But you find out that citizens try to say, okay, we will do on our own. And they've been contributing money, paying handsomely also for security to protect themselves before the police will eventually get to them.
And now that you speak of that, we've also seen cases sometimes in urban centers where citizens have so barricaded themselves in that access in terms of, I mean, when there's a distress call, getting access for security agencies to have access to those places is a huge challenge on itself. We have seen that happen as well.
Yes. It's quite unfortunate that we find, in as much as we encourage various communities to fortify their communities, some of them have gates, and you employ these night guards. But unfortunately, when it is 11, 12, night guards become a slave. Yeah. I don't see the rationale behind having a gate, employing night guards, and nobody to man this gate. Even when it happened to me when I was operation officer in Lagos. We got to a place, they called this, we got to a place, we could not have any access. We could not. Even the security man there was not in possession of the key. He said the community chairman has taken away the key. So these are some of the problems we face, and I think we need to address them. Once you have a gate erected for access control into your community, you should be able to have people that will man this gate in case of that.
Cyril, I want to just 1 minute, please. I want to add something. The current debate going on in the country now is to have community police. Yes. You understand? I think state police. And I think, in my opinion, people should buy into that idea. Right. Because the personnel, the police alone is not enough. You understand the point? We require people who know their environment. If you are able to get people who are from this particular environment, you recruit them and they know the terrain, they know the language, they know all the nooks and crannies of those very areas, it will help tame some of these things. So I think there should be efforts to support the creation of state police.
Okay. And again, ahead of that, we currently have what we call the community policing, and it's a very, very robust organization. They have a national leadership, state chapters, local government chapters, and we are working on their policies to improve on the current policy that we have, how to regulate them, regulate the vigilantes, regulate all their performance, give them SOPs, so that when they perform, it is in synergy with the police. And they have their limitations, so that when they reach their limit, they now hand over to the police. And that is also currently in place.
All right. Well, yes.
Yeah, so two things, and I would consult for the PAMSEC for free, and the other managers of our public security space, we need to do a campaign to generate public interest in security. Most countries have campaigns. The US have see something, say something. Indonesia have people protect people. And that's how when you go over the world, you see campaigns like that, that mobilizes people to understand their role in the provision of security. We don't have that in Nigeria. Instead, what we see is, like the most callers have actually done, is to criticize without actually asking, what is my role? How do I contribute to security? Now, tied to that are so many other things. If I see something, there should be a platform where I can report that thing. Today, if I start giving you the number of different platforms, the police have their own, the military, NSA, everybody has a different platform. We need to harmonize that into one. Now, the other thing I also want to mention is this issue of state police and community policing. First off, I think in the Police Act 2020, the provision for community policing, just like the PAMSEC has mentioned, is there. And in our constitution, there are provisions that have empowered at the state level certain components of policing. So maybe what we need to do at the beginning is to separate the definition of policing and police, so that we know which agencies at the moment are actually providing policing functions and which ones are, like the Nigeria Police Force at the moment. Creating, like Honorable Hamdas is recommending, state police will not solve the problem, because it's just a structure. It's the philosophy, it's their capabilities, what can they do that will address the challenges. I know there is a lot to say on this topic, but I just wanted to mention it. In conclusion, I also want to remind us that security is deployed in concentric cycles. When you pick physical security, it has so many components. If you just install CCTV and think that just by installing CCTV you are solving your security challenge, no. There are several layers of physical security. Your fence, as an example, your window, the integrity of your door, illumination in that, and then so many components. So all of that will have to come together. What am I trying to say? We have to disaggregate our threats. Now, each threat, when you disaggregate it, to reduce the risk from that threat is a scientific job. It's not just what anybody can do. And I think that's the way to go. If we're going to, next year, 2 years, we're going to sit and review, this is what we need to do.
Speaking of communities and neighborhoods resorting to self-help, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a necessary development, mainly because protection from public security organizations, unfortunately, has been weak. And so, naturally, human beings, security, even when you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think security is number 2. So, as human beings, if we don't have security, there is nothing we can do. So, naturally, people would seek to protect themselves. But there is a danger there, and like I've mentioned earlier on, when northwestern states created their vigilantes, it created another bigger challenge. And I'm so delighted by what the PAMSEC has mentioned. If they are going to provide a framework, which, by the way, is contained in the Renewed Hope Agenda. The Renewed Hope Agenda says there will be frameworks across the 6 geopolitical zones. So I'm quite delighted that the Ministry of Police Affairs is ahead in that regard. We should have done that yesterday. Provide the framework that will allow these communities to understand where their power starts and where it ends, so that they know that they can't prosecute a suspect. Even the police cannot, on their own, prosecute. They can take the suspect to the court for prosecution, but they can't execute a suspect, which is unfortunately what we're seeing in some communities, and it creates a challenge. The pastoralist community, because they are essentially victims, they are now looking for arms to protect themselves, and that's not what we want. So if we allow this situation to continue, where we would see an increasing weaponization of the country. The Sudan is happening. An AK-47 that used to sell for, let's say, 5 million naira. Because of Sudan now, the AK-47, its price has come down. So we need to wake up, really.
Well, in the last few minutes of this program, we would give attention to what might have been missed out in all the efforts to bring insecurity under control, and what suggestions we might give to the authorities and the administration in areas we think we need more to be done, and that, of course, will go to Honorable Abdulrazak Namdas.
First, I want to commend the President for making defense as a priority. Even in the 2023 supplementary budget, you can see that attention was given to security. So also in 2024, attention is given to security. And I want to also applaud my colleagues in the National Assembly for approving of this budget, because they also understand that their constituencies are really in their need of peace and security. So that is really a very helpful development, and the people who are given those responsibilities to ensure that whatever has been budgeted for, please kindly ensure that people, our personnel gets it, particularly their welfare. Once people are not motivated, they are not likely to work very well. And lastly, one serious challenge that has been even while I was in office is that I can give an example of the Army. The Nigerian Armed Forces has about 128 barracks. And I can tell you, when you see, before I even left the office for 4 years, they have never had a capital above 30 billion, which is too small. If you take an entire 30 billion and you put it even in a renovation of 128 barracks, my brother, it will just go as if you are dipping a small water in a whole river. So there is need to give both the police, the armed forces, and what have you, let us make them comfortable, make their barracks so that they should know that when they are out, they know that their families are safe. I think this is a very important point.
All right. PRO, your closing comments on how you're prosecuting the war against insecurity, being a lead security agency in internal security.
Well, let me say that most cases, most times you see that people are not seeing what we do. They don't appreciate the efforts. Like I said at the forum, that I think the issue of spreading fake news and generating old content, negative content to suppress the present happenings is another problem that we need to look into. If we have arrested some suspect now and we have done well in an area, somebody will just sit there at the corner in his room and send out another negative content. And you know how negative contents fly than real ones. So I think we need to do more advocacy, public enlightenment in this regard, to tell Nigerians there's no need for us to do any disservice to this country. It's our beloved country. We need to love Nigeria. Patriotism should not come on board. And let me say again that we want to appeal to our, let me say, National Assembly. Let us review some of these laws we have. They should be functional enough to be in tandem with present happenings across the country. And above all, we cannot have it enough. We would need more fund, like what it was said. Let them focus on how security is expensive.
Okay.
Very, very expensive.
The final word, of course, will go to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Police Affairs, Dr. Nasser Sani Gwarzo. In just 30 seconds, what would you say finally?
Thank you very much. Not because I'm in the police sector now, but if I was to advise Nigeria, and especially Mr. President, on one shortcut to improving security at very, very low level, community level, reform the police and improve its funding. Well, once the police is improved and reformed and funding guaranteed, believe me, police will help improve the whole country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's where we leave this conversation. Remember, as we said, the second part, the concluding part, will be next week, when we would have the Minister of Defense as well as the Chief of Defense Staff and other top brass in the security system to conclude this conversation on assessing 1 year of the Tinubu administration with regards to national security. For this, we'd like to thank our guests, Dr. Nasser Sani Gwarzo, MNI, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Police Affairs. Thank you so very much. And Assistant Commissioner of Police Olumuyiwa Adejobi, the Force PRO, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Let me say thank you to Honorable Abdul Razak Namdaz, former chair of the House of Representatives Committee, Army. Thank you for being here. And Dr. Kabir Adamu, always a delight to have you join our conversations. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you too for being part of it. Those who called in, thank you. Next week we'll be back with the second part. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.
Indulge in the latest fashion trends and styles on Fashion Vibes.
In Africa, our weddings are very much fashion inspired. Do something that's going to be of benefit, of essence to the people who are behind the big industry we know as the African wedding industry.
From bold prints to contemporary twists, Nigerian fashion is the epitome of elegance and creativity.
As humans, it is absolutely crucial that we understand that